This podcast was produced using artificial intelligence and refined by human editors.
Buongiorno, travelers, and welcome to yet another espresso shot adventure on Travel with Lara and Luca. I'm Luca, mistake-prone navigator, gelato aficionado, and your somewhat charming guide through the hidden alleys of travel wisdom.
And I'm Lara, ever the wanderer with a penchant for history, mishap storyteller, and the one who will inevitably save Luca from ordering a faux pas instead of a panini. Ciao, everyone.
Today, we're embarking on a virtual trip to Italy's capital of chic, Milan, the city that gave us fashion weeks, the world's most stunning Gothic cathedral, and the bone-rattling rivalry of Inter versus AC Milan.
Ah, Milan. Historic, spellbinding, and mischievously cosmopolitan. It's not just a place that you visit, it's an experience where you might end up finding more style in a cobbled street than in your entire closet. Right, Luca?
Hey, I'll have you know, Lara, the last time I strolled through Brera, even the statues turned to check out my outfit.
Those were pigeons, Luca. Pigeons. But seriously, Milan is a fashionista's paradise and, surprisingly, a history buff's dream, and we'll be uncovering all the layers in today's chatty tour.
Oh, we'll dig into the glorious sights, my dear Duomo, how your marble spires capture the sun like it owes you rent. Then there's the famed Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II, and of course, some highbrow art for those of you who like your history with a side of Leonardo.
Speaking of Leonardo, I still think Luca would have made an excellent model for one of the apostles in The Last Supper. You know, the one that's always a blur in the photographs because tourists can't seem to stand still with excitement.
Alas, if only Da Vinci could have appreciated my perfectly shaped halo. But moving on, Lara, tell them of the gustatory delights. No trip to Milan is complete without trading your waistline for some authentic Milanese cuisine.
Absolutely. Imagine a bowl of saffron-infused risotto alla Milanese or the golden crumb of a cotoletta that makes you wonder if angels take culinary classes.
Why, my dear listeners, if it were up to me, I'd trade every pair of socks I own for a lifetime supply of that risotto.
And we can't forget the Aperitivo culture. Navigli is the place to be, where the drinks are strong and the gossip is stronger.
Just beware the Negroni. It's both a handshake and a punch from an Italian grandmother. Powerful and aromatic.
Then we'll take you down the less beaten path, into Milan's hidden coves like Brera, and to hear tales that'll make even the gargoyles of the Duomo gossip.
We'll expose Milan's quirky underbelly. You haven't lived until you've heard about the ghost that apparently likes to photobomb tourists' selfies at dawn. Right, Lara?
And who could forget the football frenzy? Even if you don't know the offside rule from an off-brand gelato, San Siro's electrifying atmosphere will convert you into a raging fan, or at least into someone who shouts a lot.
And stay tuned, as we'll be giving you essential travel hacks, like when to toss a coin to get the best view of the Duomo without a crowd, or how to outwit that charming Milanese pickpocket. Yes, the one who complimented my Italian and then nearly ambushed my pocket.
So lace up your most comfortable shoes, grab an imaginary gelato, and let's swoon over the allure of Milan, shall we?
Travel with us through your headphones, and we'll paint you a picture of Milan so vivid, you'd swear you can smell the espresso.
Get ready for a roller coaster ride of culture, style, and our questionable humor. Because this is Travel with Lara and Luca, and Milan waits for no one.
Ciao for now, andiamo. Welcome back, fellow globetrotters. It's time to dive into the iconic landmarks that make Milan a postcard in motion.
Indeed, and at the very heart of Milan's pulsing city life is the Duomo di Milano. Standing there for centuries, the cathedral is like an aged rock star. It's put on weight, developed more angles than a geometry book, and might be a sculptor's version of a Gothic porcupine, but by golly, it's still got it.
A Gothic porcupine. The Duomo is truly a masterpiece and worth every one of its 3.2 million marble tiles. I remember getting lost among the forest of spires on the roof. It was like being in the world's most religious hedge maze.
I will never forget you texting me, Lara, send help. I've been circled by gargoyles 3 times, and I think I just interrupted a pigeon's wedding. Just so you know, dear listeners, there really are over 3,400 statues up there, and not all are inviting.
Thanks for reminding them, Lara. But what's truly absurd is that they're still adding statues. It's like Milan is trying to break its own high score. Hey, here's a fun tidbit. Did you know they cleaned the cathedral with the help of a certain sponsored vacuum brand? Sucking up the devil dust since the 19th century.
Only in Milan would chores become chic. But let's strut a few paces away from our Gothic friend to the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II.
Ugh, it's a place, dear listeners, where my wallet spontaneously develops anxiety. This Galleria is one of the world's oldest shopping malls, wearing a glass dome that could make the sun jealous.
I've lost Luca there more times than I can count. One moment he's by my side, the next he's nose pressed against a shop window like a kid looking at candy.
Honestly, I don't know what tantalizes me more, the luxury goods or the crisp smell of freshly baked panettone that lingers in the air. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see high fashion in its natural habitat, this is the Serengeti.
Be aware though, not all wildlife in the Galleria is friendly. Watch out for the flocks of snapping cameras. Oh, and legend has it, spinning around 3 times on the mosaic of the bulls, well, let's call it the bull's lucky charm, gives you good fortune.
Yes, it's the Turin bull, and tradition demands you use your heel for the spin. Unfortunately, I tried it once, and the only luck I had was tripping into a gelato cart. Messy, yet delicious.
Maybe the bull just wasn't into your dance moves, Luca. Now, from opulent shopping to a silent reverence, let's walk to Santa Maria delle Grazie, home to none other than The Last Supper.
Oh yes, Leonardo da Vinci's celebrated mural. I bet he never had to book tickets months in advance to see his own painting.
Word to the wise, you truly must reserve your spot early. But it's worth the foresight. The way Leonardo captures the drama of Christ's last meal with his disciples is, well, it's something that even your best Instagram filter can't honor.
And there's something fantastical about standing in the exact same spot where a genius painted over 500 years ago. If these walls could talk, they'd be like, yeah, I rubbed elbows with Da Vinci, no biggie.
Luca, I think you just want the walls to confirm whether or not that rumor about you and the fountain is true.
Speaking of passion, Lara, tell our friends about La Scala.
Teatro alla Scala, simply referred to as La Scala. Not gonna lie, Luca once thought it was a fancy pasta dish.
In my defense, if it were, it would be topped with the finest puccini sauce. But enough about my sophisticated palate. La Scala is one of the most prestigious opera houses in the world.
It's where you go to have your soul serenaded. Whether it's opera, ballet, or orchestra, the performances are so powerful, you might find yourself sobbing into your opera glasses. And if you don't cry, well, the prices for front row seats surely will make you.
And every time the curtain rises, it's as if you're transported into the notebook of history. Rumor has it, even the ghosts hang around for encores.
They have a museum too. Great for perusing unless, like someone I know who shall remain nameless, you accidentally knock over a bust that's been quietly judging from a pedestal since the 1800s.
We do not speak of the bust incident. I'd rather remind our listeners that while all these places are absolutely must-see, they should also take their time getting lost in the less charted beauties of Milan.
Exactly. It's in those unplanned moments that Milan goes from a city you tour to a city you feel. So walk, get lost, find a hidden cafe, or simply bask under the sun on a quiet step. That's the Milan we love. And don't worry, dear listeners, I'll be your trusty compass. Even when I'm spinning in circles, I somehow find north. And I'll be the reality check, making sure we don't end up in Rome by mistake. Now, we've covered some monumental ground today, but as all good things come to an end, so must our first segment on Milan's iconic landmarks.
But our journey through Milan is far from over. Stick with us as we take you through the flavors and feasts that make Milan a culinary capital. Who knows, Lara might reveal her notorious battle with a tricky tiramisu.
Oh, trust me, it's a tale that ends in both tragedy and triumph. So refill that coffee, tighten your apron, and stay tuned.
Until then, it's ciao from your trip-obsessed twosome. And we're back, dear listeners, with the second serving of our Milanese tour. Now, this is where things get delicious, and trust me, you'll want to loosen your belt for this one.
Oh, if only this podcast came with smell-o-vision. Milan isn't just a feast for the eyes, but also for your taste buds. So let's take a gastronomic romp through this flavor-packed city.
First up on our culinary catwalk, risotto alla Milanese. It's like eating sunshine, folks. That warm golden hue doesn't come from a bottle of food coloring. No, it's the magic of saffron, all married with creamy, perfectly al dente rice.
Luca was so inspired by the risotto, he once tried to replicate it at home. It was, how shall I put this?
A risotto only a mother could love?
Precisely. But when in Milan, leave it to the experts. Every grain of rice is coated in history, culture, and a dollop of butter. Honestly, a culinary hug from an Italian nonna couldn't compete with this dish.
And let's not forget about the cotoletta alla Milanese. This isn't just any breaded meat, my friends. This veal chop is tender, juicy, and sports a crumb coat that'd put the most lavish ball gown to shame.
True story. Luca took one bite, and tears sparked his eyes. At first, I thought it was pure joy, but turns out he just squirted lemon juice right into his eyeball.
The hazards of fine dining, but worth every drop, my esteemed listeners. The cotoletta is a tradition, a staple, and my nemesis in the art of citrus handling.
And let's not forget about panettone, the Christmas cake that remains on countertops long past its festive sell-by date. I swear, Luca, I found one lurking in my kitchen the other day, and I think it's grown roots.
That's Milan for you. Even their cakes are built to last, like the Duomo itself.
But when the sun starts to dip and the sky turns cotton candy hues, Milanese folks and wise travelers alike flock to enjoy an aperitivo.
Ah, the Aperitivo. It's not just a happy hour. It's a symphony with a cocktail conductor, where the price of your drink includes an open ticket to a buffet that spans the culinary cosmos.
Navigli district is our next stop for this tradition. It's draped along the city's canals and serves up an ambiance as rich as the variety of snacks that come with your aperitif. Just be prepared. It's a battle of elbows to get the best pâtés and cheeses.
You haven't lived until you've speared an olive while defending your Aperitivo turf. It's the Milanese way of saying, I came, I saw, I nibbled on everything.
Careful though, it's easy to fill up before dinner, which would be a culinary crime in a city like Milan. Remember, Luca? You practically rolled out of Navigli last time.
In my defense, it was all that artisanal bread's fault. Now, let's take a moment to adore the Negroni, a cocktail with enough gusto to make you confess love to a lamppost.
Which you nearly did, Luca.
What can I say? Milan's spirits move me in mysterious ways.
If you decide to tackle one, do it where the locals do. Balancing bitter and sweet, it's an art form, one that's been mastered by bartenders in Navigli.
You know, Lara, there's a certain poetry in watching the canal waters ripple, Negroni in hand, as the sounds of the city serenade you.
Poetry that often turns into lively tales. Milanese love to chat, and with every glass, they become friendlier, funnier, and somehow more philosophical.
Speaking of friendliness, remember the time we ended up at that local's dinner party because I mistook their apartment for a quaint bistro?
That's one way to sample homemade cuisine. Luckily, they embraced your blunder with open arms and an open wine bottle.
Milan, my darlings, never lacks for food, nor stories. But let's turn over to the sweet side of life. Gelato.
Luca's first love. The man has a gelateria radar that's unreal. Any flavor, anytime, any place. If there's gelato, he will find it.
It's true. And Milanese gelaterias craft flavors like they're painting the Sistine Chapel's ceiling, except you can eat this masterpiece.
From classic pistachio to avant-garde saffron, and even blue cheese. You heard it right, blue cheese. The variety is wild, and each more delicious than the last.
I've made it my life's mission to try them all. It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it.
And I'll be there to narrate the journey, scoop by scoop. Well, dear listeners, that wraps up our tantalizing tour of Milanese culinary delights. But stay with us and don't even think about skipping dessert, because coming up next, we'll take you through the hidden gems and side streets where the real Milanese magic happens.
Until then, keep dreaming of that risotto. And remember, when in doubt, order another round of Aperitivo.
Buon appetito, and see you after the break. Welcome back, listeners. After filling up on the main courses of Milanese splendor, it's time to wander off the beaten track and discover the city's hidden gems.
Yes, the real treasures of Milan that live within the whispers of side streets and boast the stories untold by your average travel guide.
Stories like that one time Luca thought he'd discovered an ancient relic, but it turned out to be a modern art installation.
art is subjective. But speaking of art, let's meander through the arty district of Brera, the bohemian soul of Milan. It's where cobblestones meet the canvases and chic boutiques shake hands with quaint trattorias.
Brera oozes charm. With its intimate galleries and lush botanical gardens, it feels like you've stepped into a painting where the colors are more vibrant and the air smells like blooming creativity.
If Brera were a person, it'd be that mysterious artist you always see scribbling in a sketchbook, sipping an espresso, and undoubtedly wearing a beret.
Our listeners can't see you, Luca, but I can attest that trying on berets turned you into a Italianate Hemingway for an afternoon.
Caro mio, Brera brings out the poet in anyone. But it's not just the art that's hidden here. It's also a small church that houses one of Milan's greatest secrets, the Chiesa di San Maurizio al Monastero Maggiore.
San Maurizio, a gem within a gem. This church is often referred to as the Sistine Chapel of Milan, and once you step inside, you'll understand why. The frescoes, they stretch from floor to ceiling, telling stories in a silent visual splendor that echoes through the ages.
Absolutely. And remember, it's easy to walk right past its unassuming facade, just like I did that day we visited. 6 times.
That's the day we confirmed that Luca's internal compass has a whimsical mind of its own. But rest assured, dear listeners, San Maurizio is worth the circling.
Circling right into another of Milan's worlds, the iconic yet often overlooked San Siro Stadium. For football fans, it's a pilgrimage. For the rest, it's still a staggering structure that echoes with roars of victories and spirited defeats.
The energy there is palpable. The colors, the chants, even if you don't know your Milan from your Inter, you'll feel the passion. The stadium tour will leave you rooting for a team, although Luca, didn't you once cheer for both sides in sheer confusion?
Let's just say my appreciation for the game extends to all players, especially when besieged by fans from both sides. It's like being in an opera where everyone sings a different aria, and you just hope to leave with your voice intact.
From the bustling energy of the stadium to the tranquil corridors of the Università Statale, a university with the architectural grace that makes even scholars want to attend class.
There's something about those Renaissance courtyards and archways, listeners. Maybe it's the mingling of young voices and the echo of centuries-old knowledge that just inspires you to, I don't know, pick up a history book or a sketch pad.
You'd make a charming professor, Luca, if only your lectures wouldn't detour through tangents about the price of panini in the cafeteria.
Hey, sustenance fuels the mind. Speaking of which, let's guide our listeners to the columns of San Lorenzo.
A nighttime hotspot. This ancient Roman ruin serves as an unlikely backdrop for Milan's youthful spirit, a place where laughter and conversation flow as freely as the Aperitivi we so lovingly spoke of.
The columns have seen it all, from the emperor's whisperings to my impromptu gelato therapy sessions under the moonlight. They stand as stoic guardians of history, while today's Milan dances around them.
And if those columns could talk, they'd tell you that Milan isn't just about the gloss and glam, but about these timeless moments, too.
And a little birdie told me that San Lorenzo is also indirectly where Lara acquired her collection of street art photography.
Guilty. Milan's street art is stunning, from vibrant murals to thought-provoking stencils. Duck into alleys, peek around corners, and you'll find yourself in a citywide gallery that's as dynamic as Milan itself.
Those secret masterpieces speak in colors that the Duomo's statues can only dream of.
Our stroll through the artful labyrinth of Milan's side streets and hidden alleys has been a treat. But sadly, we must pave our way toward the end of this segment.
Our Milanese side street expedition may be concluding, but the invitation to explore these gems for yourself is always open.
So listeners, as we wrap up this segment, take a moment to let those vibrant alleyways and whispers of history linger in your imaginations, because up next, we'll be dishing out the weird, the wacky, and the wonderfully peculiar facts of Milan that you might not find in your tourist pamphlet.
Indeed, Milan may dress in haute couture, but underneath, she wears quirky socks, just like yours truly.
Ciao for now, we'll be right back. And we're back, dear listeners. Now, Milan is like that eccentric uncle who has traveled the world, has peculiar habits, and an attic full of intriguing tales. Right, Luca?
Exactly, Lara. If Milan were to throw a dinner party, the guest list would include both philosophers and jesters alike. So let's lift the veil on the quirks and curiosities that give this city its unique character.
Let's kick things off with a little-known Milanese peculiarity, the ear of Milan, or l'orecchio di Milano. Tucked away within the Vittorio Emanuele II Gallery lies a fascinating acoustic wonder.
Ah, the Whispering Gallery. You stand on one side, whisper a sweet nothing, and voila, it travels across the dome, clear as day to someone on the opposite side of the gallery. Perfect for serenading someone with a suggestion to buy you gelato, perhaps?
Sneaky Luca. But let's not spoil the whimsy. It's one of those little delights that Milan casually has up its sleeve. And speaking of whimsy, let's talk about that rather peculiar tradition within the Milan Stock Exchange.
Ah, you mean Maurizio Catalan's LOV sculpture, a giant hand making a certain, assertive gesture. Interestingly, it's pointing toward the financial district, making quite a statement and causing chuckles since 2010.
It's certainly one way to comment on the economy, but hey, that's Milan for you. Bold in both fashion and opinions. Changing gears to another local oddity, did you know Milan has its own set of navigable canals? The Navigli, as they are called, were once the lifeblood of Milanese commerce.
Indeed, they were Leonardo da Vinci's playthings. He designed the innovative lock system. And speaking of waterways, our next fact concerns the hidden rivers of Milan, lying dormant beneath the bustling city streets.
Yes, these ghost rivers, there's an entire aquatic labyrinth beneath our feet. Underground tours reveal remnants of this once thriving network, like the echoes of a wet past that refused to dry up.
Wading through the underbelly of a city to discover its secrets? Sign me up, Lara. Now, from the depths below to the mysteries above, did you know there's a secret itinerary hidden within the Duomo's architecture?
It's said that the Duomo's builders embedded a trail of symbols and clues within its design, a celestial pathway meant to be navigated by following the light during the spring equinox.
Shh, we wouldn't want the Duomo to hear us giving away its secrets. But ready for something spookier? Rent-free tenants of the ghoulish variety are rumored to roam the cathedral's nooks by night.
That's right. The Duomo isn't just a sanctuary of worship. There have been whispers about a ghost, the Red Monk, seen floating through the aisles in the dead of night ever since the 18th century.
Remind me to avoid night strolls around the cathedral unless he's carrying an ice cream scoop. Ghostly delights over frights, please.
Speaking of ice cream, that reminds me. Milan once opposed daylight saving time. Luca was ecstatic, an extra hour for gelato every evening.
The pursuit of gelato knows no time constraints. Now let's take a moment to celebrate Milan's obscure connection to famous figures. Did you know, for instance, that Mozart composed 3 operas here, including the premiere of Ascanio in Alba, which was quite the hit back in 1771.
And let's not forget that even Napoleon had a sweet spot for Milan. He was quite the celebrity here, crowning himself King of Italy in the Duomo in 1805.
All hail me, and now let's feast. Speaking of crowns and duels, it is said that during the 15th century, Milan had a rather unusual method of conflict resolution.
You mean the trial by marble? Indeed, when 2 parties disagreed, they had to face off by standing on one leg on a marble block. The first one to fall lost the dispute.
Imagine solving arguments like that nowadays. Instead of Twitter spats, public squares filled with one-legged squabbles over marble, I see a reality show in the making.
I'll get the TV networks on the line. Meanwhile, here's a fashion fact that's downright dazzling. Milan is home to the first ever Prada store established in 1913.
The mothership of fashion. A pilgrimage for your wallet, ladies and gentlemen.
And then there's the peculiar case of Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II's rival. Not all storied establishments survive the test of time. Remember Spar?
Spar, the Galleria's ornate twin, now just a footnote in Milanese history. Leveled during World War II, it's a stark reminder that even empires of elegance can fade.
War does tend to edit the pages of history, but Milan's resilience shines. The city's endurance is as admirable as its flair for the elaborate.
And with that, we arrive at the end of this segment on weird facts and Milanese anecdotes. From ghostly figures to defiant sculptures, Milan's tapestry is as eclectic as its cuisine.
So, Hold on to your Prada bags and keep your hearts open for the countless stories yet to be uncovered beneath the Milanese skyline as we continue our journey.
Stay with us. After this short pause, Milan will unveil her final secrets. All aboard, esteemed journeyers. As our Milanese sojourn nears its end, we're not quite ready to pack away our compass and curiosity. Milan, with all its character, is also the perfect stepping stone to other Italian wonders.
That's right, Luca. Milan might hold your heart and fill your belly, but just beyond its bustling borders lie destinations that beckon with the promise of beauty and adventure.
Picture this, an expanse of azure reaching out to kiss snowy mountaintops, dotted with elegant villas that seem stolen from a dream. This, my friends, is the world-renowned Lake Como.
Less than an hour by train from Milan's central station, Como seduces you with its serene splendor. With every breath you draw, the lakeside air writes poetry in your lungs. And the town of Bellagio, oh Luca, Bellagio is where I'm convinced mermaids vacation.
If only I could hold my breath underwater long enough to verify your mermaid theory, Lara. Bellagio is the diamond on Lake Como's ring, a picture-perfect scene complete with cobblestone streets and lakeside promenades.
Better not try that, Luca, unless you want the mermaids to mistake you for a lost fish. Como isn't just for scenic strolls and aquatic folklore, it's also the silk capital of the world.
And let's be honest, I've never seen you walk past a Como silk shop without adopting a scarf, or 5. On that note, let's venture eastward to the rolling hills, where the sparkling waters bid us farewell and welcome Bergamo's medieval charm.
Ah, Bergamo, a city splashed across 2 levels, the modern lower city, and perched high on a hill, the ancient upper city, Città Alta, encased within Venetian walls that could whisper tales as old as time.
You know, I once challenged a Bergamo mime to a duel of wits. For a fellow of few words, he was remarkably expressive. But dear listeners, even his theatrical silence couldn't capture the narrative that is Città Alta.
Walking the stone streets of Città Alta, amidst buildings that lean in with centuries of wisdom, it's nothing short of time travel. Every piazza, every church holds a manuscript of history waiting to be read by those who wander.
Speaking of reading, do you recall when my Italian barely got us aboard the funicular railway and you questioned whether we'd end up on Mars?
Your Italian has improved since, Luca. But up we went, scaling the city's heights to be greeted by panoramas so bewitching, I nearly accepted that Mars might have competition.
And for those seeking an encounter with the divine, a mere day trip from Milan takes you to Pavia. Known for the Certosa di Pavia, a monumental monastery where art and spirituality embrace in an eternal waltz.
Truly, Luca, every inch is anointed with ornate detail, from frescoes to the grand cloisters. It's said that the marble facade changes with the sunlight, like heaven's mood ring.
And it's also where Lara vowed to become a nun, if only for the chance to spend her days surrounded by such celestial artistry.
Well, my habit of silence wouldn't last long. We all know I prefer the confessionals of Milanese cafes.
Ah, yes, where the secrets are sweetened with sugar and cream. But let us turn our gaze to Vigevano, an esteemed day trip for those passionate about Renaissance art and architecture.
Vigevano is the keeper of one of Italy's most beautiful squares, the Piazza Ducale. Lined by porticos, it's like a living painting that invites you to step inside its frame.
Stroll beneath the arches, engage with the vibrant murals, and if you listen closely, you might just hear the faint strumming of a lute, inviting you to a masquerade that ended centuries ago.
Whether by the shores of Como, on the heights of Bergamo, through Pavia's sacred corridors, or across Vigevano's squares, the regions around Milan are less of a detour and more of discovering the next chapter.
And when the evening train brings you back, the glow of Milan's skyline will welcome you, an everlasting embrace between you, the city, and the memories you've woven together. Our Milanese voyage may be drawing to a close, but before we go, we've got a few golden nuggets to share. Our personal travel tips to make your Milan experience truly golden.
Tips forged in the fires of our own mishaps and adventures. Let's start with navigation. Milan's public transport is fantastic, with the trams, buses, and metro all cross-stitching the city.
It's like a dance, where each step is planned to perfection. Grab a day pass for unlimited travel and pirouette through Milan to your heart's content.
Just make sure your pockets are secure. Milan's pickpocketers are akin to stage magicians. They'll applaud your fashion sense while your wallet takes a disappearing act.
Ah yes, they once complimented my Italian. Imagine, such flattery. And then poof, my pocket was lighter than my gelato conscience after 5 scoops.
If only compliments could pay the bills. As for timing, sunrise and late evenings are the magic hours for iconic spots like the Duomo. You'll have all the Gothic drama without the chorus line of tourists.
And for museum fans, getting a Milano card can save you not only a pretty penny, but also hours in line.
Shop at local markets and hidden boutiques for authentic keepsakes. Though, beware your suitcase's weight limit. Trust me, it adds up quicker than Luca's gelato tab.
Guilty as charged. And about food, Hostaria and Trattoria are your go-tos for that home-cooked taste. But don't dismiss Aperitivo for dinner once in a while.
Luca here has a PhD in Aperitivo appropriation. Now, folks, don't forget to validate your train and bus tickets, or risk a truly Italian scolding.
Ah, the day we learned the word multa, and it wasn't because we were buying ice cream. Always stamp those tickets at the machines, folks.
And remember, when dining, the coperto is not a scam. It's a small cover charge for the bread and table service. Consider it part of the Milanese mealtime charm.
Exactly. Besides, where else can you grumble about a coperto 1 minute and then swoon over the finest risotto the next?
As we wrap this up with a bow as stylish as a Milanese necktie, we encourage you, when in Milan, to venture beyond the guidebook.
Use our tips, yes, but let the city itself be your ultimate guide. She has a lot to whisper if only you take the time to listen.
And with that, Luca, we've reached the end of today's auditory expedition. Time to stamp our passports and await our next destination.
So from the depth of our wandering hearts, we thank you for journeying with us, for your comments, laughs, and shared memories that bring us closer, even when worlds apart.
Listeners, if our tales have sparked your fancy, or if you find yourselves brushing shoulders with the red monk at the Duomo, write us and share your story. This podcast thrives on your curiosity and courage to explore.
Be it fashion, cuisine, or the arts, may your travels incorporate a little slice of the Milanese zest for life. May you always find the hidden alleyways of bliss in every city that you visit.
Don't forget, you can catch us next time for another wanderlust-filled episode. Whether in transit, at home, or daydreaming at your desk, Travel with Lara and Luca is here to ferry you to the world's marvels.
So until we rendezvous again, keep your compass set to adventure and your bucket list wide open.
Ciao for now, travelers.
Andiamo.